That's Matthew Rocchio. I'm Randy Karraker. It's the Randy Karraker Show on STL Sports Central. Glad you made it over here to YouTube, and we're going to talk some sports with you. We are presented by DraftKings, where the crown is yours. Matthew Rocchio, there's a lot going on. I know you were a happy camper last night when St. Louis University won their game at Loyola Marymount, and won it in convincing fashion.
Yeah, it was a big game for the Billikens. First half, defensive just clinic by the Billikens. In the second half, they turned it around a little bit of an offensive clinic, but it was kind of weird how the numbers worked out. They scored 51 second half points while turning the ball over 8 times and only having one player in double figures. That player did happen to be Trey Green, who had 6 3-pointers. He got a 7th one the hard way for a 21-point second half. Unbelievable game by the Billikens. And if they just could have rebounded that last ball, it would have been a perfect 3-0 road trip, and we'd all be talking about dancing. But now they got a tough but good conference schedule facing off against them at the end of this, starting at the end of this month, and hopefully they can take it on and run the course, because they got a lot of hard VCU, George Mason, Dayton. Those are all top 60 teams right now, and so they got the schedule in front of them. Can they, only lose 2 or 3 more games? That's going to be the big question.
6-game homestand for the Bills coming up. Mizzou falls at Notre Dame. Good effort. Notre Dame's a good team, and Mizzou just couldn't do it at the end, and Notre Dame did. They hit the late 3, and the Fighting Irish knock off the Tigers by a score of 76-71.
It's not the double team. It's the doubling. It's doubling off of Serta, who is the best 3-point shooter on the floor in that game.
Yeah.
Can't double off the bad guy. Can't double off the one guy who can potentially murder you. Got to have a little bit better call on the defensive end for the Tigers.
Yeah, and the Lindenwood Lions win by 35. So
how about that? Joe Roderick had a parlay with a bunch of small town basketball teams, and he went against the Lions.
Oh,
and you know what? Good for him that he lost because of it. But
no doubt about it.
He lost that one early because Lindenwood slaughtered him by 40? Oh, it was incredible.
Yeah. All right, the headline of the show today, what's the long-term plan in center field? We're talking about the St. Louis Cardinals. I don't believe, Matthew Rocchio, that Victor Scott is the long-term plan. I think the Cardinals kind of visualize him as a nice bench player, pinch runner, defensive replacement, but I don't know that they see the upside of him getting to a point where he could be a 330, 340 on base guy. I think the offense is where the Cardinals believe he's limited. They think that he might wind up being only a 300 or 310 on base guy rather than the 330 or the 340 at least that you need to be a leadoff hitter. Now, could he bat 9th like he did most of last year and play a good center field, be a Gold Glove quality center fielder? Yes, but you'd like to get a little bit more offense out of center field. And I think there are some chances for people in the organization, Baez being at the top of the list, to play center field. I remember this too. On the day that Harrison Bader got traded and the Cardinals, and this was John Mozeliak, different thing. When the Cardinals traded Bader and moved Jordan Walker from third base to the outfield. And I said, hey, can we expect to see Walker down at Springfield at the time at the corner outfield spots? He said, yeah, absolutely. Then I walk up towards the field. He walks down towards the dugout. He's walking down the tunnel. He says, hey, Randy. I said, yeah. He said, center field too. So maybe you have a 6'6", 260-pound center fielder. I don't know.
Yeah, we've talked about that one before. The fact that he had to learn right field is one thing, but and Baez too is a guy who profiles, to right field as a corner outfielder. And he's 6'6" or 6'4", 220, 6'5", 220. He's a big dude as well. And that's the thing is, if you go and look at the Cardinals system right now, there are no real pure center fielders in the system. Right. And the only one right now, if you look at their top 100, is, other than potentially a slight little blurb that he could play some center on Baez's profile, is Nathan Church, who, again, we're talking about getting a borderline average bat out of center field. Nathan Church isn't going to give you the borderline average bat, and the bigger thing I think we have to focus on is that Nathan Church is 9 months older than Victor Scott II. So we're talking about the long-term plan here, and that's the thing is. So let's just break this down. First of all, the main reason I asked this is because we just mentioned it yesterday. If you trade Lars Nootbaar, all of a sudden it's like, oh, you don't have anywhere in the organization a plus bat with more than 15 games as a center fielder in Major League Baseball.
Experience is a big thing. Go ahead.
And so you don't have that. And so that got me thinking, okay, obviously, best case scenario, Victor Scott II figures it out. That's one check mark. Everything's done. We're happy. But if he struggles again, or let's say the world happens and he gets an injury, knock on wood, it doesn't happen, then we're talking about a Nathan Church or Michael Siani playing in 2026.
Siani's gone.
Siani's gone, you're right. That doesn't matter technically because they're not going to be a good team in 2026. But again, the point of being bad is that you have to get the useful side of the bad coin, which is playing good, young, talented players, them getting through getting through the ups and downs of their career and being good players on the back end when you're going to be a winning club. So you're not getting that factor of the benefit here. So that's why the other question is, what's the long-term plan? Obviously, it's VS2 becoming that 320, 330 BPE player that he might be able to become. But where's the pivot if that doesn't happen? And right now, I just don't see one for the Cardinals. And that's a little worrisome when we talk about a team that's got to be thinking about 3 or 4 years in the future.
Well, let's think outside the box, okay? There's
I like that.
A phrase that I like. If the box isn't broke, break it.
Okay. I like that.
Okay? Heard that from
I like this from Craig Lewis. Long-term plan in center field. Teach VS2 to drag bunt and then turn him into Vince Coleman.
How about this? That I like that idea a lot.
Not bad. It's not bad.
And have Vince Coleman help him turn into Vince Coleman.
Hey, you could
not
do
a bad
that.
idea. But okay, a guy that can play offense is an above average athlete, and you have Yanye in your organization now. You could also, if you wanted to, use Ryan Ludwig and maybe even Jim Edmonds. How about JJ Weatherholt? What do you do with what do you do with shortstops when you already have a shortstop?
Brandy, if somebody would have listened to you in May, which I think might have been the first time you thought of and proposed this idea, as late as mid-June, if someone simply would have listened to you instead of just denying that as a possibility, I would love to have that conversation. But apparently, they don't want to have that conversation. They don't want to think outside the box.
No, and I think that this is something that they should take a look at, because if you are concerned about the offense that Victor Scott presents and you aren't clearly happy with the defense that Lars Nootbaar possesses, you are not putting, with all due respect to his athletic ability, Jordan Walker in center field, and you don't even know if he can hit, and you aren't putting Alec Burleson in center field, okay? So now all of a sudden our options are limited. Baez, as Matthew said, more of a corner outfielder. Chase Davis probably projects more as a corner guy if he ever makes the major leagues. So why not take a guy that's a good athlete and teach him how to play the position? Craig Biggio wound up being a really good center fielder for a long time. Robin Yount was an all-star at shortstop, moved to center field, and was an all-star in center field for the Milwaukee Brewers. Why not start this guy early? He's a terrific athlete. He can run. He's got a good arm. He's a competitor. And you have a glut of infielders and not enough outfielders. The Cardinals have been the worst offensive outfield in baseball for 2 years running now. So why not take the guy that is regarded as maybe the best minor league hitter that's there and get him into your lineup, but in a different place in the outfield? I just like that idea. And I think the Cardinals now have enough good teachers in the organization that they could do something like that with Weatherholt. And oh, by the way, if you aren't going to do it with Weatherholt, how about Mason Wynn? Mason Wynn could play center field with that arm and that speed.
Yeah, see, and that's the one where it's just like, I get why the Mason Wynn thing is like, you know what? We've already capped him out by not letting him pitch. Let's just let him be a great shortstop. But yeah, the stubbornness around JJ makes no sense to me. And again, I'm being a little tongue in cheek, but I'm also being serious, because Randy literally was down at Busch Stadium asking people, why not have JJ play in the outfield? He's a superior athlete and flexibility is useful. Heck, we talk about Brendan Donovan having a plus attribute being versatile. And so why not let it be JJ Weatherholt? Why not, if he's such a superior athlete, be a spot at like center field that's so important? Space Magic Storm says, I see him as the main center fielder for the next 2 to 3 years. Then they'll replace him with something else. And maybe that's the thing. Maybe they say, listen, we have to bite the bullet on one position that we eventually go out there and get a free agent to fill. because we're worrying about every other spot. My point revolves around just having a spot that all of 2026 essentially doesn't plan for the future. It could happen. It doesn't destroy the rebuild, but it's not an ideal thing stepping forward. And they have an offseason to potentially find somebody to fit. They have maybe this changes. Maybe this is a thought process like this would change one of the trades. I'm not sure.
Well, if you go back to the days of Whitey Herzog, they brought up Andy Van Slyke. He was an outfielder, drafted as a number 1 pick as an outfielder. And when he came up to the majors, he was a third baseman. Not a very good one, he'll admit to you, but they tried to find a spot for him, and he wound up obviously being a Gold Glove quality center fielder. And there were several other guys that Whitey would change the positions of. Mike Ramsey, he could put him anywhere in the lineup and utilized him there. They moved Jack Clark, when they got him from right field to first base. They did that a lot. The Cardinals under Whitey Herzog did that a lot. Nobody did it more until the Dodgers started doing it than Tony La Russa in moving people like Sean Dunston to the outfield and Eric Davis playing all those positions in the outfield. Remember Miguel Cairo? By the way, don't forget, Whitey had the secret weapon in Jose Oquendo too. True. Whitey moved Oquendo all over the place. It's a good thing. And the Cardinals have done it with Edman. They've done it with Donovan. I don't know why they feel like, well, we can't do it now. They say that Weatherholt's best position is shortstop, yet they played him at second and third. Why not play him in the outfield? Give him a chance out there.
I would love it. Corey Land, take it or leave it. Victor Scott starts 100 games in center this season. Again, you have to take it.
I'm going to take it. Yeah.
Again, besides injury changing that, my point is who else makes any sense to give games to here for the Cardinals? Because it's going to be Victor Scott II. There's nobody else on the roster. There's nobody else in the organization it makes sense to give 63 games to for the Cardinals. That's a good thing if Victor Scott can show improvement at the plate this year. It's a bad thing, again, if all we find out in Victor Scott II is that he isn't it. And the difference between, in my opinion, the difference between this season with Victor Scott II and Nolan Gorman, for me, would have to be, I guess, the potential of Gorman, because I think it's important for both seasons to say you get 4 months. Who are you as a Major League Baseball player? And I've been more willing to give that time to Gorman and call that as a good reason, a good way to use 2026. And the difference, I think, is just simply the potential. If Nolan Gorman hits his potential as a 30 home run player and an average infielder, that's a pretty big piece.
Yeah, huge.
To your point, do the Cardinals even see Victor Scott's offensive potential hitting average? Essentially, they're hoping for 95 OPS. Banking anything above 100 OPS plus, banking anything above 100. And so I just think the ceiling is just a little bit different. That's why it's slightly different. I know a Gold Glove center fielder, I'm not trying to knock how important that is, but a 30 home run hitting third baseman, I think, wins out.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. But if you could have a 30 home run hitting third baseman, that kind of gives you the flexibility to have a guy like Scott be your number 9 hitter, your second leadoff hitter, as it were. And
that leads me to one of my points, which was, if you go and look at a lot of the playoff teams from this year, and you go back the last couple of years as well, teams either had a lineup that had 8 to 9 spots where it was all 100 OPS plus hitters or better. And usually the shortstop or the catcher was the negative player, not an outfielder. The ones who had multiple guys who were under 100, under average hitters, it was teams like the Guardians, who are working on a smaller budget, like the Cardinals. But the difference between the Guardians over the last couple of years and the Cardinals, even over the next few years, is the Guardians have an MVP caliber player in Ramirez. Yeah. Cardinals don't have that. And so, to your point, if you have a guy like that who changes the scales, you can have an 85 OPS plus center fielder if he's a Gold Glover. Right. But unless you have the dudes, you have to have a better all-around lineup. Look at the Brewers, look at even the Rays. When they get successful, they spread it around.
All right, we want to hear from you, Don the Gun Guy, 3967. Welcome back. He says, "Hey guys, been a while. How have you been? I'm back. We've been good. I hope your Thanksgiving was good, and I hope your holiday season is great."
I think that's Hockey Dad Don.
Oh, okay.
The YouTube names got changed around. You guys might have noticed that YouTube for some reason went from using like the name of your profile to like the username of your profile. Okay. I don't know why. It really messed with a lot of the names in the chat.
All right, Don, either way, we'd love to have you back. Magic Plinko 80. Cardinals will be lucky to get 60 wins. So that would be 59 and 103. That'd be 103 losses. I don't know that the Cardinals have had very many 100-loss seasons. If you're bad enough so that you're lucky to get to 60 wins, you're one of history's worst teams. You are right there with last year's Colorado Rockies. And I don't think the Cardinals are going to be that bad that they need to think about getting luck to get to 60 wins.
They're not going to lose 100 games.
Will they need to be lucky to get to 81 wins? Yes, I would say that is fair. But lucky to get to 60, man, that means you're a really, really bad team. Samuel Howe, 1645. I'll just say Samuel Howe. Yep. If we're keeping Donnie, JJ has to play somewhere. Exactly. So why not center field? If you keep Gorman, so here's my thing. You get rid of Arenado. You get rid of Contreras. You've got Burleson at first. You've got Lars in left. Victor Scott, for better or worse, is your center fielder. So that's a short-term plan. Walker. And so if Victor Scott isn't the guy, play J.J. Weatherholt out there. Donnie can play third.
I don't hate it. Or J.J. Weatherholt out there. Donnie's playing second and Gorman's playing third.
Gorman's playing third. There you go. Yeah. So there's opportunities. They're still going to have. They need to find out who can play, and they need to find out. And I still don't know if we know who can't play. So this is a projection on the part of the Cardinals that Victor Scott would be a limited offensive player. What if he turns out to be great? And hey, you know what? The name of Vince Coleman has come up. People always complained about Vince Coleman's offense, but whenever he got on base, he stole one. And so even though he wasn't the prototypical get on base guy, although he did have some really good get on base seasons, it didn't matter because if he only got on base 31% of the time, every time he got on first, it was a double because he was so prolific at stealing a base.
To your point, his OPS plus in St. Louis is 85.
There you go. Yeah. So I think that's one of the things.
But are the Cardinals ever going to let Victor Scott II run like that and make him useful beyond a batting metric? By the way, Victor Scott's OPS plus last year was 72, which is still 16% below Vince Coleman's or 13% below Vince Coleman's 85. But I mean, he ran, so every single was worth more than it would come out in slugging percentage and things like that. And every batting average that he got on was worth a little bit more than for most other people. Are they ever going to use him the way that you have to use a Vince Coleman like talent to actually make them a useful player offensively? Because they're never going to get on base or slug at a better level.
And I guess one of the questions we have to have answered then is, will the Cardinals do what the Rays have done and utilize their athleticism and their speed to steal bases? Because Tampa Bay, while being at the forefront of analytics, has also come back to utilizing their speed and become one of the best base stealing teams in the sport. So will the Cardinals follow that lead as the Rays have? And the Rays are really good about exploiting inefficiencies. And one of the inefficiencies
why do they have to do that? Why do they have to be so good at that, Randy?
Well, here's the thing. All you have to do is be logical. You don't even have to be good. All you need to do is be logical. Okay. So you get to a point where in baseball, it's three true outcomes, and everybody's waiting for the 3-run homer. And nobody cares about speed offensively. So nobody cares about speed defensively. Even now, teams aren't set up to defend the run. And if you have athletic players, you can run on most teams in Major League Baseball because they don't do an overall great job of holding runners on. And now with the bigger bases and with the advent of the throw over rule that you can only disengage twice, people should be going crazy stealing bases.
And my point was that when you're not spending money, when you're always perpetually losing the race in one arena, which is the spending money arena, you have to win the race in other arenas, which is, to your point, the inefficiencies that the Rays are always trying to take advantage of. They're never going to win the market race. So they got to win the let's play with speed. Let's get on base. Let's have useful relief pitching. Let's be on the forefront of scouting and analytics and things like that. So if the Cardinals are just going to just abdicate one of those inefficiencies while lowering their payroll, much like the Guardians or the Rays are want to do, then they have to either one, find a dude like the Guardians did, or two, they better start plowing every inefficiency and farming every inefficiency they can, and that means let Victor Scott run and teach Mason Wynn how to.
I will ask you this question, kind of like a lawyer, because I already know the answer. But what is it that teams pay for in offensive players? What do players get paid for when they're playing offense?
RBI?
Nope.
OPS? No, sorry. On-base percentage.
No.
What?
It's home runs.
Okay.
Home runs. And if you put a team together like, the 1985 Cardinals, who led the league in runs despite not hitting a lot of home runs, if you put a team together that can steal bases like that, then you have a chance to be pretty darn good offensively. By the way, Tampa Bay Rays led Major League Baseball by 30 stolen bases in 2025. They had 194. The Brewers were second in Major League Baseball with 164 stolen bases. So the team that is kind of built on the analytics model has decided, you know what, stolen bases are not a bad thing. By the way, Craig Counsell and the Cubs relatively analytically inclined. Brewers were second with 164. Cubs were third with 161 stolen bases. Seattle also had 161 stolen bases. Mets 147, Red Sox 139. Cardinals, by the way, let me scroll. The Cardinals had 89 stolen bases, which is bottom third in baseball. The Tigers stole 61 bases in 162 games. How about that?
Jesus.
I know.
I love that so much. Here's we get a chat here from Boy, who says if we can't find them one, then we can acquire one later. And listen, that's completely
acquire one what?
Center fielder, I believe he's talking about.
Okay.
My issue there is that let's just take this offseason, for example. Say the Cardinals were a winning team and they really need to acquire somebody to help take them to a next level. They want to win a playoff series and they haven't won it this year. The best center fielders to acquire right now are Cody Bellinger. Hey, very good player. He's not, but you're also again going to be competing with every other competitor because he's the number one center fielder. And after that, the number 2 center fielder is Harrison Bader.
Been there, done that.
So listen, this isn't every year. Sometimes there's going to be juicy seasons for certain positions. My point is that getting a Gold Glove center fielder who gives you above average offense, it's not the easiest thing to find. And usually if you exist, most teams aren't letting you walk away because you're tough to find and you usually don't cost a ton of money because defense isn't as valued. My point is it's easier to develop that player. Yeah, you can find one. I'm not saying they can't. They can trade for one as well, but that's always, as we've found out, more of a crap shot. And also the Cardinals are talking about developing this roster and rebuilding this roster. I think it's fair to ask what's the plan beyond the one long-term potential you have right now at a position, because every other spot has at least 2 or 3 players, whether they're a major league player right now or in the system. Every other spot in this organization has 2 or 3, or heck, some of them have 5 or 6 players that you can project and say that's at least a throw at the dartboard. Right now, the dartboard throw for the Cardinals for center field is Victor Scott II and pretty much nothing else.
Right. And by the way, we should make this point too, because I think it is a salient point to make. Michael Siani was a really good defensive center fielder for the Cardinals a couple of years ago. Everybody's looking, not everybody, but many teams are looking for a center fielder, even if he can't hit. Well, the Cardinals put Michael Siani on waivers, and he was claimed by a pretty good organization in the Atlanta Braves. So we talk about Victor Scott here and say, okay, we need to replace him. I'm talking about that, right? I'm talking about playing J.J. Weatherholt in center field. But there are teams out there that are willing to claim Michael Siani, who we couldn't, as a fan base, wait to get rid of. And now he is on the roster of the Atlanta Braves, who fully expect to be back in the playoff race and playoff hunt next year. So there's other teams out there. Michael Harris took a turn for the worse in 2025. Not a complete turn for the worse. He's still alive, but he was not nearly as good as he had been in the past. And so the Braves were looking for a center fielder. If you look at the Doyers, look how they had Andy Pajes playing center field after Bellinger left this year. And they've tried numerous guys in center field. Even the best teams don't always have a dynamic center fielder because it's hard to find that guy. We got spoiled, didn't we, by Edmonds? But everybody would love to have that center fielder that can hit. There aren't many out there.
Great one here says, so what I said about acquiring a low-cost free agent that plays center still stands. Again, if you think that when the Cardinals are finally competing, if you think that the equivalent free agent in 2029 of JJ Bleday or Harrison Bader is the player you want to be leaning on for the Cardinals to make their big free agent acquisition to get to the next level, sure, then that's fine. But again, we're talking about, you can always acquire a low-cost free agent. That exists at every position at all times. The point here is building from a long-term potential within your system usually gets you a better roster overall, a deeper roster overall. Samuel House is an 80+ OPS Gold Glove or center field. It's worth up to 4 WAR. Okay, here's my. You're not wrong. Here's my issue with that argument. Victor Scott II this year is a 2.2 WAR player for the St. Louis Cardinals. And that was with a 72 OPS plus, and again, playing borderline Gold Glove defense. In fact, if you break down the WAR for the Cardinals hitters, he was the 5th most valuable player on the Cardinals behind Donovan, Contreras, Herrera, and Wynn, just as batters. My issue there is that, again, WAR compares players of the same position. So you're using that to kind of compare him to just other center fielders who are also, so you're working on a curve already of guys who don't hit the ball very much, but play a lot of very good defense. So you're grading him on the curve of, I'm not expecting him to hit the ball a lot, and I'm expecting him to play good defense because he's a center fielder. So you're not wrong. It's a very good point. Again, a 2.2 WAR player is higher. If you like looking at WAR, that's higher than Alec Burleson. That's higher than Lars Nootbaar. So it's pretty solid. And heck, if you look at the pitcher wars, it's higher than any pitcher war as well. So it's not bad. It's a good point, but I think the fact that WAR is a positional stat for me is always needs to be mentioned when you're using it like that.
Yeah. And there wasn't a center fielder in baseball in 25 that had a 900 OPS. Byron Buxton,
not expecting
that, had an 878 OPS. Grisham with the Yankees, 811, and that was an outlier year for him. He's probably not going to do that again. Julio Rodriguez, 798. He's probably the best guy all around.
If he just got to if Victor Scott just took the 601 from this year to 680, I mean, we're talking, 10 more points of batting average, 30 or 40 more points of OBP, and maybe 10 more points on the slug. That gets us another 60, 70 points on the OPS. We're up to 670. Now you're cooking to your point, and to your point as well. It's an 80 OPS player. The difference between Victor Scott being an 80 OPS player is another, 8 to 10% better of a hitter. We can roll with that. We can work with that. The question is whether or not he can get there.
Michael Harris II, by the way, you talk about 680. Michael Harris II for Atlanta this year had a 678 OPS. Slash 249, 268 on base, 409 slug. And so that heavy hitter, that Andrew Jones, Ken Griffey Jr., Jim Edmonds guy does not exist in Major League Baseball right now.
What did he slug last year? Harris?
Harris, 409.
That's the thing. So his OBP is 40 points lower than Victor Scott's, but his slug, he's 409.
Yeah,
his slugging percentage is 100 plus points better. So they're slightly different players, but you're taking a balance. Again, he doesn't have to take that big of a jump for him to become a useful player, but he has to take a jump. And if the Cardinals don't know if it's there, then I wonder what the next plan is if it's not there.
They almost have no choice.
That's true.
But to give him the opportunity to become the long-term solution in center field. And then if he doesn't, then they'll have to change their thought process maybe about some of the players that they do have at other positions and try to move them into center field. But at the moment, I think we both agree that it'd be a little bit of a shocker if Victor Scott II was not the Cardinals opening day center field.
It's going to be him 100%. This is a question that is kind of asking, what happens if it's July 18th and he's still, just a 65 to 75 OPS plus player. And what happened? And to your mama's point, I agree with this line of thought. Scott is fine in center field if he can play between guys like Burley and Herrera and down the line with Baez, as long as he can steal 80 bags. But to Randy's point earlier, a little tongue in cheek about the Weather Holt and Mason Wynn comments. The Cardinals are putting themselves in a box by not letting him steal 80 bags. Let's move on from the thing that won't happen, and that's JJ Weatherholt playing anything but the infield position. I would love it, but it's just it apparently isn't going to happen. No. So the reality is, how do you make Victor Scott a useful player beyond him slightly increasing some of these slash line things? Again, it's the Cardinals becoming a more dangerous team on the base paths. It's not just utilizing Victor Scott the second speed, because I think he has the ability to be a great base stealer. It also comes into play of the thing I was joking about a few minutes ago, which is Mason Wynn has the athleticism. Teach the guy how to run the base pass a little bit more responsibly.
Yeah,
you got to teach these guys.
That's why you need Vince Coleman.
Yeah, I'm into that one.
Right. By the way, and it has been brought up on the chat, congratulations to our friend Katie Wu, who is going to be covering the Doyers beat for the future at The Athletic, and they're the biggest thing going in baseball right now. They're the articles in baseball that get read the most. And if you have the best team getting read the most, you should put the best writer on it. And that's what they've done by placing Katie Wu there on the Dodgers beat. And the Cardinals there will be a Cardinal beat writer. I don't know who that is going to be for The Athletic, but it just makes sense for them because Katie, and I told her this a long time ago. Katie started on the Cardinal beat in 2020 in the pandemic year, and with Zoom calls and phone calls, because we couldn't talk to anybody. She didn't have the ability to go into the clubhouse. She made so many great connections and got so many great sources without ever having met these people face to face. It was a phenomenal job of reporting, and she's maintained those sources over the years and over the changes. Whether it was going from Mike Schilt to Ollie Marmol, or going from John Mozeliak to Chaim Bloom and all the people that work with them and all the people in the system. She's just a spectacular reporter. So congratulations to her, and congratulations to Dodger fans. And I know that we will be reading about the Dodgers simply because Katie is doing the coverage.
Yeah, and they own baseball, which helps. She's fantastic. We always loved getting Katie on our show. She was the best. She's fun to talk to. She knows her stuff, and obviously, when you have a chance after growing up in California to go back to California, I did like her comment about Dodgers fans, like, do not ask me where I grew up. Right state, wrong city. So yes, keep it quiet about where exactly in California you grew up there, Katie. But enjoy LA, and obviously, we know she's got to kick ass.
She'll do great. And you know what she can do in California, if I'm not mistaken, is she can just maintain her DraftKings account. Here in Missouri, we can gamble with DraftKings now. Legalized sports gambling is a thing now in our state. Our moment is finally here because DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is live here in Missouri. And now you can make every game even more exciting with same-game parlays and money lines and props and more, all from your phone, all safe, secure, and easy to use. Missouri fans know game day, the tailgates, the noise, the passion, and now with DraftKings Sportsbook, you can bring that same energy to every snap, every touchdown, and every win. And right now, new Missouri customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. No waiting, no nonsense, just pure action powered by America's top-rated sportsbook app. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use that code right there on your screen, STL Sports. New Missouri customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. That's code STL Sports. The crown is yours in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 and over. Physically present in Missouri. Eligibility and restrictions apply. One single use odds boost per customer. Market boosted to plus 100 odds. Max bet $50. Expires at 8:20 p.m. Eastern Time, December 7th. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos.
We got a couple other comments in here about the situation that we've been talking about. Samuel House says, I believe you can steal around 75% success. It's statistically worth the risk. I didn't think it was that high. I thought I actually got to look up the number. That's a good question to ask. That's like basketball when they figured out the exact percentage you need to hit from mid range to actually take the shot.
I think 80% is pretty much the number.
80%. Okay. I would roll with that one. I think with a guy like Victor Scott the second, I think they could get to 75% success. With him, that'd be pretty useful. Caleb Smothers asked, why not bring up a prospect like Baez or Davis? We talked about that, by the way. Chase Davis just has struggled. And if we're talking about a guy being an above average MLB hitter, I don't think 2026 Chase Davis is going to be the answer to that equation. And again, Baez.
And you know what's interesting is
I don't know if he's ready
from
yet.
what I hear and talking to people in the Cardinal organization, for Davis, he has all the physical tools. He just has to convince himself that he's a good player. It's kind of an interesting dilemma for a guy who was a first-round draft choice, really successful college player, thought of as one of the best hitters in college baseball when he was drafted. But he just has not yet had it click that, hey, I'm really good. And he goes up to the plate and doesn't have a ton of confidence. So I think that that's one of the things that the Cardinals want to do is instill him with a higher level of confidence. By the way, the Mets had the highest stolen base percentage in baseball this year at 89%. The teams that were 80% or above, the Rangers, the Rays, who, as we mentioned, led the league in stolen bases, White Sox, Mariners, Phillies, Cubs, and Mets. Those were all the teams that were at 80% or higher. And then 3 teams at 79%, Red Sox playoff team, Guardians playoff team, Tigers playoff team. Reds playoff team? Reds were in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
So there you go. So if you look at the group, so the Mets led the league in led baseball in stolen base percentage. Cubs playoffs, Phillies playoffs, Mariners playoffs, White Sox not so much. Tampa, Texas not so much. Boston, Cleveland, Detroit, Cincinnati, Dodgers, Yankees, Padres. That's pretty much every playoff team at the top in stolen base percentage.
All right.
That's interesting.
Fair enough.
So, yeah, I like stolen bases. I'll take them.
We had a comment here from Ellipsis that the Cardinals absolutely have to make a move with Brendan Donovan. And earlier today, Bernie Miklas talked about that in his video. And I know you guys are going to have your video later this week, and you're going to talk about it a little bit. But my question for you is just going to be a general. We have to be overwhelmed or we're not going to make a move. GMs speak to kind of get the company line across to all the other teams to kind of make sure that they come correct with their offers? Or do you legitimately believe that there is a scenario where the Cardinals open up the 2026 season with Brendan Donovan in the starting lineup?
Well, it's interesting. We're talking about Victor Scott, right?
Yep. And
as it was couched to me from a Cardinal executive, in talking about Victor Scott II and being a leadoff hitter. I don't know if he'll ever be as good a leadoff hitter as Donnie. Donnie is our leadoff hitter. So the Cardinals were and are looking at Brendan Donovan as their leadoff hitter at the moment. If you have a guy that is almost universally thought of as their best player, in fact, I don't know who else would be thought of as the Cardinals' best overall player. I guess Contreras, maybe in some people's opinion, but I think most of us agree that Brendan Donovan is their best player. Well, you shouldn't just trade him for what you got for Sonny Gray, because he does have control. He's not expensive. He's an all-star. He's a Silver Slugger finalist. He's a Gold Glover. So why should you just want to give him away? I don't think that makes any sense. I think that you should want a premium for a player of that ilk. And you know what? If he's got 1 year of control left and he does next year what he did last year, he's still going to have a tremendous amount of value for another team. At the deadline, he will have a tremendous amount of value for another team. A guy that can play second, short, third, left, right, hit like that, field like that. I have no problem having that guy on my team. He is the Cardinals' best player after all. But the reason I think it'd be good for the Cardinals to trade him is because I can't imagine that they wouldn't be blown away, because you have 15 teams interested. That's according to Derek Gould at STLtoday.com. And if you have 15 teams interested, at some point you're going to have 2 of them that are really, really interested and say, okay, I want to get him and I will give you a little bit extra. And then the other team says, well, I really want to get him too, so I'll give you a little bit extra. You should be able to get a reasonable haul for Brendan Donovan. In my opinion, you should get more than what conventional wisdom would tell you should get for a player of that ilk, because of the fact that there's very little supply, only one Brendan Donovan, and apparently pretty substantial demand.
Went full economics on me. Yeah, I get what they're saying. It's, to me, I read it as GM speak. It's just, this is what we have to say because we're not going to give up any leverage in the conversations.
Well,
but listen,
they shouldn't trade him for average. They should trade him for
but to your
a package of fits.
They're not gonna get. They're not. Those aren't the only offers that are going to come.
No,
teams want Brendan Donovan. Teams realize that if Brendan Donovan is their sixth hitter, they can win a lot of baseball games.
Yeah.
It's going to play out.
Yeah. So I think the Cardinals should hold out for a really good offer. And you know what? If those 15 teams don't give them an offer that's above, for example, Fitz and Clark, if the same return, and by the way, you had to pay $20 million to Boston and to get those guys back. If the same return is on the table, similar return for Donovan that was there for Sonny Gray, I wouldn't trade him. Wait until you get a better deal.
Boy says, I think it was Seattle. Samuel House says Seattle or Casey has the pitching. Yeah, the Mariners, we talked about them with Donovan.
Yep.
They seem to be a team that a lot of people are picking up the run with the Donovan trades.
Don't dismiss the Doyers either.
Kenton Joseph, this question I don't think is going to be answered even after they make the trade. I know Donovan is good. What good is getting someone you want to succeed? Because they're not going to be 29 with a contract that ends when they're 31?
What good is getting someone you want to succeed?
Is that, he's why trade someone you know is good for somebody you don't.
Oh, so
for somebody you don't know is good when the purpose is.
And I think with the Donovan trade,
I get it, but
you have to get somebody who has major league experience, a young major league starting pitcher. I don't think that you're trading Brendan Donovan for a group of prospects. I think you're getting a major league pitcher in return, and that's why we're talking about teams like Kansas City, Seattle, the Dodgers, because they do have young, established major league starters. And the reason that you're moving Brendan Donovan is because the Cardinals are absolutely convinced that in a short order, JJ Weatherholt can be the best player on their team, and they want to get him into the lineup. Everybody from major leagues, from Chaim Bloom on down, says that, hey, this guy's got a chance to be a really, really good player. He's got swagger. He's got talent. He's got ability. He's face of the franchise material. They want to get him into the lineup as soon as possible. And fortunately for them, the guy that has the most value plays one of the positions that JJ Weatherholt plays. So you have depth. You can trade real quality that you have depth at the position to put more good quality in and improve yourself in other areas. So that's why you want to make a move like that.
I see this popping up, and I know we've talked about it, but every time I see it, I will slap it down. Or could the Cardinals try to package Arenado with Donovan? No. You do not sully the value of Donovan with the cash BS of Nolan Arenado. Yes, it would make the deal work. I don't care. You don't screw with the value you can get for Brendan Donovan. I mean, it's just that. No. That's a non-starter.
Yeah, and in
a lot of ways,
Arenado might be a non-starter in and of himself, because I know people, and last night on MLB Tonight, one of their former player analysts was saying, I think it's just a down year for Nolan Arenado. Well, what about 23 and 24 and then 25? You've had 3 down years in a row for Nolan Arenado, in which he has been in a precipitous decline. And I don't think it's going to be easy to move him. I don't think it's a given that the Cardinals can move him. And I know that Chaim has said, both publicly and privately, that cutting him is not an option. But I think at some point, the Cardinals are going to have to be willing, if they want to go where they want to go. Is that right? If they want to go where they want to go, I think they have to open that spot up, whether it's for Gorman or Donovan or whomever. It makes no sense to have Arenado on your roster. And I said this during the season, and I will say it again. In my opinion, you can pay Nolan Arenado to be on your team and do nothing, or be off your team and do nothing. But either way, you're not going to get great production out of Nolan Arenado. So what difference does it make? Treat it as a portfolio. So if you move Brendan Donovan over to third base, okay, JJ Weatherholt's playing second. Just pretend that the production you're getting out of Brendan Donovan is Nolan Arenado, and that's where the $30 million, $15 million over the next 2 years, 15 and a half is going. I think that's the approach to take. It's okay. I can pay a guy to not play for me, and I'll get nothing out of it. I can pay a guy to be on my roster, and I'll still get nothing out of it.
So Arenado,
so why not cut him?
Yeah, and here's the thing: Arenado wants to be on a winning team, and so let's just put yourself in the perspective, not even of the owners. If you were doing radio in any of these cities that made the playoffs in just like the last year or two, or expect to make the playoffs in the next year or two, Detroit, Cincinnati, Philadelphia, Boston, San Diego, Cleveland, any of these cities, if you were doing radio in there, would at any point would you be chirping for that team to be getting and adding Nolan Arenado and say, yes, fine, if it's only $5 million of his contract, he's a great piece to our already winning club because he gives you great defense and you have no idea what he's going to give you by July at the plate?
I would not do that. Here's why. Because if I'm a good team, I want to improve my lot, or at least stay as good as I was last year. So even if the Cardinals, so he's due basically in cash $31 million over the next 2 years. Colorado's paying a part of it's deferred. The Cardinals will pay that. So let's just say $15.5 million a year. So let's say the Cardinals would pay half of that, like they're doing with Gray. So all of a sudden you're paying $7.5 million a year for your third baseman. And you really don't have to give up a prospect. But if you are Boston or Seattle or Detroit, do you really want to be concerned about that production that you're going to get from Arenado when there are people out on the market where maybe you have to give up a pick, but Alex Bregman is out there, Suarez is out there, you could roll the dice on Moncada, and there are some other deals out there to be made. I think that if I were Detroit, if I were Boston, if I were Seattle, I would be looking at the free agent route before I would be looking at the trade route with Arenado.
And I guess is the question going to be an even at, let's play this all the way out, because you, Mama, made a good point about how a lot of these deals are going to happen later for all these players when Tucker, Bellinger, Schwarber, Bregman, the Japanese guy all get played out when we talk about the third base position. But even so,
and even
the
Marte,
music,
by the way, Marte could be traded too.
The music stops. There is a team that didn't find a chair in the offseason. You're a winning club.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to is Nolan Arenado the move that you think changes that helps you this season? I just don't know how many teams who are winning ball clubs that Nolan Arenado would waive the no trade clause to go to. How many of those teams are actually going to be willing to trade for him? I just don't see it being a very hot token.
In general, I agree with you. It would have to be a team. We were just talking about Victor Scott and what he brings to the table defensively.
Yep.
If you have a great lineup and you need to enhance your defense, he still plays a pretty mean third base. So if you feel like, okay, I can get by with average or just below average, give me his OPS plus.
Nolan Arenado?
Yeah.
I want to say it was 85 this past year.
So a little bit below average.
87. Let's go.
87. So below average OPS plus. So if you can get by with that and take him because of his great defense, then I think that you got a chance to move him. And there are teams out there I would think that would be interested, but it's got to be at the right price. And maybe that's $5 million a year. So the Cardinals
eat another 20.
Yeah.
That's why I said 5, because I'm like, do the Cardinals eat another 20 million? It's not the half, but it's just like Sonny Grades. You're eating $20 million. Maybe that's really what you have to do. Listen, they're willing to eat money. Are they willing to eat that much money? We'll have to wait and see, I guess.
Yeah. I think that the Cardinals could probably be talked into that, because I think they know they have to know that the guy's just not the player that he was, and it's not his fault. He's in his mid-30s. All of a sudden he's got injuries. He's got miles on him. He works his butt off. And sometimes that catches up with you when you work that hard as he's worked. Sometimes there's only so many reps in a body in your lifetime, and maybe he's used his best reps up.
And by the way, we are dealing with the known variables. For all we know, one of these teams out there has a team doctor who goes, oh, no. I know how to fix that shoulder thing. I've dealt with that before, and nobody else does. And so that team says, well, if you think you can fix his shoulder, then fine, we'll give you a shot at it. We've seen, I mean, look, listen, the present day NFL we have is entirely based off, or almost partially, about 60% based off a doctor in Miami not knowing how to really work with Drew Brees' shoulder. If that doctor has a different view on shoulders, pretty much most of the NFL we deal with now on a daily basis is a completely different landscape. So I don't know, maybe that there's all those crazy variables. There's a team out there that likes him for some reason. There's a coach that used to work with him, what have you. There's an agent relationship we don't know about. There's some variable we can't even factor for that could also change this entire thing.
Let me give you a perfect example of what you are talking about. If I can get my computer to work faster.
I thought the Breeze one was pretty good.
The Breeze one is really good, but I have more of an apples to apples.
Oh, let's go.
Okay. So the Dr. Richard Kremchek, the Reds team doctor, performed the shoulder surgery on Scott Rowland, who couldn't play here anymore, right? After the injury in 2006 and couldn't play here in 2007. The Cardinals traded him to Toronto. Walt Jocketty, his former general manager, says, you know what? I love this guy's leadership ability. I think that he can still play. Kremchek says, well, you know what? I did that surgery, and I feel good about that surgery and what we did. And all of a sudden, Cincinnati gets rolling, and he wasn't what he was with the Cardinals, but he was a more than serviceable offensive player for them with the exact same shoulder that he had operated on here in St. Louis. Obviously, it had improved because he had the rehab and went through the years, and it just had to heal. So his last year in St. Louis, Rowland had a 729 OPS, spends a year and a half in Toronto, goes to Cincinnati. His OPS is there, 766 and a half a season. Then in 2010, 854, then at 676, and then a 716. But he bounced back and had a really good year at the age of 35 in 2010 because his shoulder was better again. I mean, it was a really good year. He had 20 homers, 83 RBIs, 34 doubles, 854 OPS. So maybe that person is out there for a guy like Nolan Arenado. And that all that has to happen is that the general manager that traded for him in the first place needs to have a job somewhere else.
Oh, okay. Interesting little wrinkle there by Randy Karraker. One last thing, and then we'll close out with some Blues talk here as they face off against the Bruins. Kenton Joseph, the Cardinals will compete in the Central. Kenton Joseph, I don't want to disagree with you, but I do need you to show your work on
compete for what?
I just need you to show your work on why you think. I don't need you to show me why you think they're going to be better than the Cubs or the Brewers. I do actually need you to show me a base level of why they're going to be better than the Reds and the Pirates. That's step one. I just need that explanation, and we can roll on with the conversation. We're going to talk a little Blues now, but if you want to get in the chat and give me a little bit of a rubric, a synopsis as to how the Cardinals are at least a better team in 2026 than at least the Pirates and the Reds, we can continue the conversation, but I don't see how I get past that point. So I'm going to need you to help me out a little bit.
All right.
Just need a little help.
Let's see.
He said if they picked up Hauser last winter, they could have been in the playoffs. You might be a little more optimistic than me. Maybe that's what I'm not seeing.
Yeah, I'm not so sure.
Fair enough. Blues and Bruins, more injured players, including a Scalding that we have no information about. Yeah. Yes, and the power play went 0 for 6 the last time it was on the ice. Things don't look great. Montgomery yesterday was basically saying this team looks like they did before the Four Nations last year, which is pretty much the worst thing you could possibly hear.
Yeah, right.
But it also affirmed everything we've been seeing, so it wasn't really that much of a shocker. Not great.
Yeah, but they didn't have Snuggie last year, right? Before the Four Nations.
They don't anymore.
Nadub was he was here, but not doing an awful lot.
Also not here.
Yeah,
anymore.
Yeah, no, he's out right now. So I don't know if they're exactly like that. Maybe he's just talking about the way they're playing.
Yes, that's what he was saying.
Yeah, but
essentially, this is why they're losing games now. Is the same reason why they were losing games. Why the offense and the power play are stagnant is the same reason it was prior to the Four Nations break.
Yeah, and I don't know. Maybe Akil Thomas will turn into a better player than he's been before. But now you're getting to a point where the injuries are having a dramatic effect. You lost Neighbors, and he's back now, obviously, but that had a dramatic effect. You lose a guy like Walker. Snuggie was having a nice run there. Toropchenko, what the heck? Come on, what's the scald? Do we have?
We don't know yet.
Okay, scalding water on the legs.
I think his coffee pot broke on Sunday morning.
Okay,
and it
okay,
right over him.
Okay, yeah, that's a bad.
Or maybe he's more of an espresso guy. I'm not sure.
No, that could be.
Espresso.
But anyway, and then you have the little set two, which isn't a bad thing. When you have a goalie that is competitive and wants to play all the time, it's not bad that Jordan Binnington was frustrated about being taken out of the game, but it's just another part of this season. And the amazing thing is, and we mentioned it last week, and we'll mention it again, the Blues are right there in the hunt, and if they can just keep their head above water, by the time Snuggerud and Walks come back, they'll have a chance. They certainly aren't done.
The defense has gotten better, or the goaltending has gotten better, but the offense now is just completely stagnant. They can't score more than 2 goals, and they still have games like against the Ducks where it's,
they haven't played Colorado yet. What's Colorado's
God
record?
Bless America. Very good, 16-1-5, I think, something like that.
Yeah, they've lost 1 game.
Yeah, in regulation, yeah. They still lose the other ones. It just takes longer. They are 19-1-6.
Yeah, there you go. Pretty good, huh?
I mean, I guess, if I have to admit, yeah, seems pretty good.
Yeah, they're good. But if you look at what the Blues would have to do right now,
they're still 2 points? Like, what are they? 3 points behind a wild card spot?
Yeah, Sharks more than that,
stupid.
But Sharks and Kraken 29, 28 points are your 2 wild card teams right now. Blues have 25, so you're literally 3 points out of a wild card spot right now.
3 points. It's insane. It's stupid. It's it's the same thing as always.
Let's make it 4 because
can this team
Seattle has played 24 games. The Blues have played 27. The Blues and San Jose have both played 27, and San Jose has 4 more. So let's go with 4 points behind.
So if they were playing slightly better and they were a wild card team, let's say this was April, it's like I just don't have any confidence this team can play the playoff version of hockey and be an upset team. Like they don't play heavy, they don't play fast, they just kind of float.
But the thing is, just like last year, if you get into the playoffs, if you're playing for a wild card spot and you're playing playoff hockey every night, you do have a chance because you're playing desperate. And that's why they had a chance. That's why they took Winnipeg to Game 7 last year, because they had to win every game and they got hot, and hopefully they'll be able to get hot again. And then, like I said, if I would be thrilled if they were 3 or 4 points out of the final wild card spot on the night that Snuggerud and Walker are both back in the lineup for the Blues. Maybe they can do it. You never know. And if you're not, I know they talk, the Canadians talk about the mushy middle. I would just as soon win the lottery, and I think you could.
I hate the mushy middle, man. I hate the mushy middle. That's why I like people talking about the Cardinals this year. It's like, I don't want to be in the middle. I need them to reset things. The Blues might be the same thing where they got 2 top 10 picks though. They got Dvorsky. They got Dvorsky was 10th overall, and then they got who was the other top 10 pick? They get another top 10 pick. Am I blanking?
No, that's it.
Was it just Dvorsky?
Yep. Devo.
Okay, they got a top 10 pick. That's nice. Mm-hmm. So I guess it'd be nice to get another top 5 pick if you can really make it happen.
And the Blues would be in the lottery right now.
Yes.
They are, we talk about them being 4 points out of, or 3 points out of a wild card spot. They're also 3 points ahead of Calgary for the worst record in the league, or fewest points in the league. Yeah. Calgary and Nashville, 22 points.
I don't see it getting better. December 1st, they played the Ducks. It was also the first day that DraftKings was live. And as soon as the Snuggie news came down, I hammered that money line in favor of the Ducks. And I have no problem admitting that because Carbonneau was 19th, Juracek was 16th. I have no and Snuggerud was 23rd the year before Dvorsky. My apologies. I have no problem admitting that because I had no confidence in the team losing. And listen, Snuggie's not going to be the difference between them being like a playoff team and them not. It's not going to be the difference between them winning a ton of games over the next 6 weeks. But when you lose any bit of punch and then you lose a little bit more with Nathan Walker, it's just I didn't have confidence the team was going to be able to overcome that and have the jam that they always talk about, and they didn't. So I kind of wonder what we see on this 3-game road trip.
Well, Sagarud is nice, but
Yes,
he had not been, I don't think, a difference maker.
No, that's what I'm saying.
And so what you need is and I know it's boring for you guys because it is boring, but you need Buchnevich to be what he's capable of being.
Yeah, you need to. It'd be nice.
Yep. All right. That is it for this edition of the Randy Karraker Show on STL Sports Central. Don't forget, later in the week, Bernie is going to join us. And don't forget, we always now are going to have special content for you if you become an insider here at STL Sports Central. Just go to stlsportscentral.com, sign up, and you can get the chance to have more engagement with myself and Bernie and Brendan Schaefer and Kareem Rush and more. Plus, we're going to have monthly giveaways. We're going to have access to all of Bernie's columns, ad-free reading experience on stlsportscentral.com. It's going to be pretty cool. So just check it out. Become an STL Sports Central insider. A great job as always, sir.
Thank you very much. And I'm chatting with Henry Wells in the chat right now. He's an STL Sports Central insider. Me and him are agreeing vehemently on the topic of best fans in baseball. But that's the fun part, is we're having a good little back and forth about
who do you think the best fans in baseball are?
I think it's a really stupid moniker. I don't think it's a thing you can prove. I don't think it's a useful thing to give to fan bases. He says his point is that Bud Selig called St. Louis the best fans in baseball.
They did.
My point is you can find a lot of commissioners when they're in front of certain fan bases referring to them as some of the best fans in baseball. Mm-hmm. And so my point is just like a lot of commissioners have called fan bases the best fans in baseball. Your commissioner, your point is to be a little bit of a politician for the sport. That's what his job is. Mm-hmm. Cardinals fans are incredible baseball fans. Are they the best fans in baseball? I think a lot of them are great. I think they have some of the best fans, but I think, Phillies fans are great. Giants fans, sometimes a little too great. When you talk about what greatness is, I mean, mm-hmm. I've met Braves fans who were from, they have, just like the Cardinals, they have a weird, huge circle around their team where mm-hmm. it's like you meet guys who grew up in Kentucky, who are diehard Braves fans, and you also have Cardinals fans who are diehard Braves Cardinals fans in Kentucky because of the way that the radio and the television broadcasting has always worked. Cardinals are undoubtedly one of the best fan bases, but staunchly saying we're the only fan base that a baseball commissioner has ever called the best fans in baseball, I don't think that's factually accurate.
I think it is.
Really, you think that's the only time that Bud Selig ever told a group of fans that they were the best in baseball? Was it in St. Louis?
Not just in St. Louis. No, he would say it on national TV. He would say it in interviews.
I've heard Manfred. I know you don't really respect Manfred as a commissioner, but I've heard Manfred say it to other fan bases before.
So Peter Ueberroth came here and said that St. Louis was a miracle of sports.
That is, I do love that quote. And listen, that he said that quote in what year? What year did Peter Ueberroth say that?
1988, I believe.
I feel okay. We're talking about that's 35 years ago. 37 years ago.
You still haven't had a market of less than 3 million people drawing more than 3 million people,
and it's incredible. But did all 1 million people who didn't show up to the Busch Stadium this year, were those all bad fans because they didn't show up this year?
No, we're talking about fans.
Oh, I know.
So no, if you don't show up, you're not a fan.
I think you're still a fan even if you didn't buy tickets to see the Cardinals this year.
What makes the Cardinals fans the BFIB, the people that show up and they applaud David Freese when he comes to the plate?
Who wouldn't applaud one of the biggest heroes in their sports in their franchise's history? That's not a special.
Pirates fans certainly didn't applaud Barry Bonds when he stepped to the plate as a member of the Giants.
David Freese didn't destroy one of the greatest records in sports while juicing allegedly. Like, that's a little bit different, isn't it?
Well, who else does it? What other fan base, whenever a player comes back, gives that player a standing ovation? Even Aaron Miles, Colton Wong had tears in his eyes when he stepped to the plate and got the standing ovation from Cardinal fans.
It's a great
Where
fan
else
base.
Does it have?
I think. Well, here's the problem: is Randy, I don't watch a lot of Game 74 of the Pittsburgh Pirates or the Seattle Mariners or the Boston Red Sox, but I guarantee you there's probably a lot of weirdos in Boston crying when they bring up some random jackwagon from 1994.
Number one, Boston is a very hateful town.
Of course it's a hateful town, but their fans are passionate.
Their fans show up, and even if they win the World Series or finish third or fifth or second or fifth or third or third, which they have done all of in the last 8-9 years, their fans show up. Those are really good fans.
Henry Wells says, you still didn't counter what I said, that they have the record behind the Dodgers for 2 million plus. So you're saying they don't have the record. There is a fan base that shows up more religiously than the Cardinals. Listen,
No,
I think
when Frank McCourt owned the Doyers, they weren't showing up.
To say we don't have the best fans in baseball is just awful. You don't watch the team, but constantly rip them. Listen. I mean, yeah, I'm not rip. Yeah, I criticize the team, but I watch a lot of the team. Unfortunately, it's terrible baseball the last 4 years. It's been unfortunate to have to watch this team. I would like them to be a little bit better in the future. I'm not trying to come at Cardinals fans. I was raised in a household where my mom and dad told me the Cardinals are the best fans in baseball. I think it's trite. I just think it's just patting yourselves on the back like that is a weird move. I think
it's not. This started with Peter Gammons and Tony Gwynn.
That's fair. That's fair.
This is not Cardinal fans saying, "Oh, we're the best fans." No,
Hasn't it become that though? Like I didn't hear the Peter Gammons quote. My parents told me they were the best fans in baseball. It's a little like
Gammons said it both on when he was with ESPN, when he wrote it in the Boston Globe, when he wrote it in the Sporting News, and on ESPN. Tony Gwynn, every time he came into town, said, "Hey, this is the best fan base in baseball. This is a fan base that will applaud when you make a great play as an opponent." Said that doesn't happen anyplace else. So it's not Cardinal fans that are saying this, and that is one of the biggest national misnomers and one of the most foolish opinions that people have, or thoughts, not opinions, because of opinions you can have whatever opinion you want. But to think that a Cardinal fan came up with the idea and it wasn't a national perspective is ridiculous, because it's been a national perspective for players and for media for a long time. Why did Paul Goldschmidt come here? Because, as he told me, because I want to see 40,000 fans in the stands. Why did Nolan Arenado want to come here? Because Matt Holliday told him how cool the fans was, how cool the vibe is in St. Louis. It's because players that actually play on the field say and think that this is the best fan base in baseball.
When players who have played for 15 years in other cities, they talk about that a lot of them talk about not a lot of them, I should say. There are other fan bases that talk about it with the same reverence. I'm not doing this to crap on Cardinals fans. I'm doing this to saying that we can't just universally say we are better baseball fans than the Baltimore Orioles fans.
I think you can say that.
No, come on. Just because their franchise isn't as successful? Well, that's an incredible fan base, isn't it?
Not really.
Okay, fine. Maybe it was a bad, or Boston, or I don't want to give the Yankees or Boston any credit, but like they are pretty impressive.
Can't give Reds fans base, right?
No, not as much Cincinnati, not as much the Reds.
Yeah.
If I had to give, but usually these cities, a lot of these cities they have a franchise that they do treat like the Cardinals. It might not be their baseball team, but I mean the Cincinnati people around the Bengals. Unbelievable! That's some of the best fans in football.
Yep, they are.
And so my point is not to take away from Cardinals fans. This is the one where we rank in the echelon.
Okay, so
but I think
here's my question for you.
Saying the best,
a question, not the question.
Calling it an insult is a little extreme.
All right, Game 5, 2013 World Series.
Okay.
Game at Busch Stadium, Cards and Red Sox.
Mm-hmm.
Monday night game at the Dome.
Mm-hmm.
Rams and Seahawks. Rams and Seahawks drew more than the Cards and the Red Sox for the World Series.
Was that just a capacity factor?
Ipso facto, might have been. I don't know. Rams fans better than Cardinals fans?
Never. And obviously, I would never crap on the NFL fans of St. Louis in any way, shape, or form. Obviously an incredible fan base that was done wrong. We're great fans here. I guess we're the best.
There you go. Thank you.
Unbelievable.
That's what Terry Bradshaw said last week when he was in town a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, he's at a St. Louis event. So shocking that he says something nice about St. Louis.
Best sports fans in America. There you go.
It's just, I'm not surprised when people who are doing events in front of 3 million people from a city say nice things about that city. I'm not saying they're lying. I'm saying they might be a little bit hyperbolic in the statement.
Yeah, you're calling them liars. That's okay, though. So I don't think you suck like Matthew.
Damn it. That was a That was a rough way to turn that one against me. But fair point. Thank you for being an insider, Henry. That's why we love these conversations.
We appreciate it, man. And we will see you tomorrow at 3-ish Central Time on STL Sports Central. Have a good one, everyone.